So, Star Trek Section 31 released last week as the first Star Trek film in almost 10 years, the 14th film overall, and it was a Paramount Plus streaming exclusive, and it sort of, I don't know, made me worried for the future of Star Trek in films, not because of the quality of the film necessarily, well, kind of because of the quality, but more so because of what the performance and the reviews of this film means for Star Trek in films as the future. Because look, Star Trek and Star Wars are both in very similar places when it comes to their future in films, where it's constantly new films getting announced and then nothing happens or nothing comes about with them. Like we had so many announcements about a Star Trek 4, following up from Star Trek Beyond, which was going to have Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto come back as Kirk and Spock, and we're going to get a new adventure with that Enterprise crew to wrap everything up. Sometimes we're hearing that Chris Hemsworth's going to be in it as George Kirk. Other times we're hearing that it's just going to be, its own sort of standalone film that wraps up that whole era of stuff. We're also hearing about a new Star Trek prequel sort of thing that's set in the JJ universe, but is going to be set as like the beginnings or the foundings of the Federation. I don't know. There's a lot of conflicting information with that film. It feels like they're trying to write that film at the moment, but we also haven't heard anything about it in ages. For a while, it felt like they might be ready to film this year, but now it seems like it's also sort of getting into that development hell sort of area where we can't really expect anything from it. But Star Trek Section 31 is interesting to talk about because it is getting absolutely slammed online. Not to the extent like Discovery was, or Star Trek Picard was, or a lot of the new Trek stuff was. Section 31 is getting slammed by everyone. And I think it's because it's a film, which means a lot of sites that wouldn't cover TV shows are covering it because it's just an easy hour and a half watch, get a review up on their website or whatever. And a lot of those places that are covering it are just destroying it. And a lot of these places covering it aren't even necessarily Star Trek fans. They're just saying, like, who is this film for? It's not for Star Trek fans, and it's not for a casual audience because it's just a bland, boring, bad film. Like, take IGN, for example. They gave the film 2 out of 10. I know people joke about IGN scoring and stuff like that. They gave The Penguin 5 out of 10. I thought The Penguin was fantastic. But 2 out of 10, that's a bad review. That's not just like a oh well, it might be a fun watch, sometimes. No, 2 out of 10 is a bad, bad, bad review. And it's crazy to me that publications are giving something new, a new Star Trek film, this sort of rating. And Alex Kurtzman's talked in the past about how he'd love to do more Paramount Plus streaming films and stuff like that set inside the Star Trek universe. And I think that's a great idea. I think it would be super cool to get one of these like every half a year. Sort of like the way Marvel tried to do their special presentations things with Werewolf by Night and Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Two 40-minute specials that just built a little bit up in the MCU. They just released whenever. They were really fun, really enjoyable, really cool stuff. I would love Star Trek to start doing that. We're like, every 6 months or so, we get another Paramount Plus film that is an hour and a half, a short watch that is set in some era or features some crew or something like that. Just something really simple that doesn't have to be as all big and as all encompassing as a TV show is. But Section 31 is just getting absolutely destroyed. And it should be. It's not a good film. I hated it. I made a review on it where I talked about how this is probably my least favorite Star Trek thing ever because it's not just that it doesn't feel like Star Trek, it just isn't good. It's just boring. Like Discovery, Picard, sure. Even when they didn't feel like the most Star Trek-y things out there, I still felt like they were at least somewhat watchable. I don't think Section 31 was watchable at all. I genuinely wanted to turn it off so many times, which is crazy to me that a new Star Trek film felt like that. And with everyone destroying this thing online, Star Trek fans are saying that it's the worst thing ever. People who don't even like Star Trek are watching it and saying that this is just a terrible film and it's not fun at all. And even Michelle Yeoh can't save this and all that sort of stuff. And this has me extremely worried and nervous now for the future of Star Trek in film, because Star Trek in film is already extremely uncertain with all of the production issues and the pre-production stuff and the films getting lost in development hell. But it seemed like Paramount Plus exclusive films were one place where we could sort of expect things to actually happen in that department. But if Section 31 is just getting called the worst thing ever by both Star Trek fans and non-Star Trek fans alike, I think that probably is going to send a message to Paramount, like, not to do this again. Like, not to make this stuff again. Like don't even try and make a good thing. Just leave it alone. Because if it comes out bad like this, we're just going to lose a lot of money. And it's not worth it. And I don't think that's the message they should be taking away from this. I think the message they should be taking away from this is that if people are watching it, there is a market for this stuff, just make it good. People are watching it, they're just not liking it. People are going to watch the next thing you make. But if it's good, think of all of the great things people are going to say. Think of how many people are going to love it and talk about it as a great project. And Star Trek needs to make a return to films, because as good as TV shows are, I feel like Star Trek is also a film franchise and needs to solidify itself as something that's going to bring out films every so often. But I think Section 31 is just going to really, really, really push Paramount into being like, okay, let's just not make Star Trek films ever again. Like, I don't know. And I think that's a really bad message for them to send, because Section 31, I think that was just a bad idea in general. I don't see a universe where even a good Section 31 film was well received by a lot of people. I think that it's just a very controversial idea. We even saw on Blue Sky, one of the writers for Star Trek Prodigy, I believe it was, came out and talked about one of the Alex Kurtzman quotes, where Alex Kurtzman was like, Section 31 is the CIA Black Ops division of Starfleet. And that, I don't know, the interview was just like Alex was trying to justify why Section 31 exists. And then one of the people who worked on Prodigy made a Blue Sky post in response to this, where he was like, I really don't like the idea of the head of Star Trek trying to justify the existence of Section 31. Like, Star Trek Prodigy is a very optimistic, hopeful show. That's why he wanted to work on it. He doesn't like the idea that the head of Star Trek, somebody who has the decision to save Prodigy or not, is deciding to make things about like Section 31 over Prodigy. And I completely agree with that. Section 31 is a bad idea for a Star Trek project. It works as like a one-off thing every, I don't know, 5 years in a Star Trek TV show, where maybe a one Section 31 agent shows up, the crew has to deal with it or whatever, and that's it. A whole project surrounding them, terrible idea. So it speaks to me that it's not necessarily that there's not a market for Star Trek films in Paramount Plus. It's just that they need to be good ideas. It's just that they need to be focused on something that actually feels like Star Trek. Whether that's a brand new crew on a new Starfleet ship somewhere in the galaxy, whether it's a I don't know, a Klingon ship during the Dominion War, whether it's a Starfleet ship in the middle of nowhere running away from a Borg cube, whether it's like a murder mystery on board a space station. I don't know, something that makes sense in the Star Trek universe and conforms to the Star Trek ideals. Section 31 doesn't do that. And I'm not saying Section 31 is bad because it's different. I'm just saying that the creation of Section 31 at all shows a fundamental misunderstanding of what makes Star Trek work as a franchise and what Star Trek is supposed to be. And I think you can do so many better ideas than that without dealing with making something that is offensive to a lot of Star Trek fans the way Section 31 is. And I don't know, I would hate for Paramount Plus to walk away from this whole experience being like, okay, let's not do Star Trek on films anymore. And I feel like that's maybe the direction they're heading in. Anyway, I just wanted to make a quick video kind of talking about that sort of stuff and my thoughts on it, because there's a lot of discussions online about Section 31 and how terrible it is and what this means for the future of Star Trek and who this project is even for. And to be honest, I don't know who it's for. But how do you feel about it? Do you think Paramount Plus are gonna push forward with more streaming films, or do you think this is like sort of the nail in the coffin for Star Trek and films for a while? In general, this just, I'm worried for Star Trek as a whole right now, because we have Strange New Worlds coming out this year, and we have Starfleet Academy either late this year or next year. But that seems to be it. That seems to be the only things we have cooking at the moment. There doesn't seem to be any sort of, I don't know, there doesn't seem to be much hope for us getting new announcements of new projects. We hear about the live action comedy, but that's not even greenlit yet. And I don't know, I'm sort of worried that Star Trek is slowly going to start fading away, and that'll be that. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. If you're not subscribed already. If you are subscribed, make sure to like and share. That's always a huge help to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and have an amazing day.